And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, this week's edition to the Petty and Ill-Informed podcast, where we venture our petty and ill-informed opinions about a variety of subjects. Joining me only, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Pretty damn tootin'. We had a little bit of an argument before the show, but we're doing all right now. You know, we settled it pretty well.
Yeah, you could tell I'm really upset.
Yeah,
I just can't
she's
do
trying
this
to
anymore.
gaslight you guys into pretending that I'm the unreasonable one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Anyway.
unreasonable. First
What?
episode of Black Mirror.
Oh god, yeah, we've watched some episodes of the new season of Black Mirror. I gotta be honest, they've mostly been boring. There's been a couple of good ones, but it's mostly been really boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I did not like that play thing, and I didn't like the what was it, Bete Noir one.
Yeah, it wasn't good. First one was, traumatizing, so that's nice.
First one was horrible, man. That's broken me.
Yeah, that was really awful, especially whenever you try to empathize.
Yep. It was just, oh god. Yeah, so basically, no one lives happily ever after, and it's just all horrible.
Yeah, the end. Welcome to every Black Mirror episode ever.
Indeed. Now, as Gabby has rightly pointed out today, I want to talk about direwolves.
Mm-hmm.
It's been all over Facebook all week, and it's kind of pissing me off.
I think you and I watched the same YouTube expose on how they weren't actually direwolves.
We might have. I went balls deep down the rabbit hole because it popped up on my newsfeed and it said they've de-extincted direwolves, and I was like, that's bollocks. There's no way. They might have bred a generation closer to direwolves, like they're trying to de-extinct the quagga by breeding closer to them. And it's working. They're getting closer. I think in my lifetime, maybe we'll have quagga again. It's a species of zebra. But direwolves, I was like, nah, I'm not buying that. So the first article read, because I know they'd been able to extract the full genome of the direwolf from preserved specimens in ice. They'd found bodies because the skulls and stuff they'd recovered from tar pits are too degraded really to get any DNA, but they had gotten direwolves from ice. So they'd extracted and mapped the genome enough to map the entire genome and make several copies of it. So I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe they've taken like the closest living ancestor and bred it with infused it with the direwolf DNA. Maybe we've got like half, 3/4 wolf, 1/4 direwolf. And the article I read said that they had 70% base pair DNA sequences with direwolves. So I was like, okay, so that's a step in the right direction. That turned out to be bollocks. So I went down this massive rabbit hole because everyone was saying that the grey wolf was the closest to the dire wolf, and I knew, and something about that was niggling at me, and it was because of condors. You know, California condors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember I became obsessed with the biological anachronisms?
Yeah.
When I found out what that was, and dire wolves were actually mentioned in that. Not that they were ever a biological anachronism, but because they were megafauna that needed a large amount of food and wouldn't be able to survive today because there isn't enough food. Condors only hung on the coasts, and they fed on sea washed up whales and stuff where there was enough food to support them. But where there isn't enough food, you know, California condors don't do very well.
Yeah.
But But anyway, grey wolves are not the closest. Are the closest living ancestor to direwolves, but direwolves diverged from grey wolves millions of years ago. I believe it is. That was the closest living ancestor to both the grey wolf and the direwolf. Was millions of years ago. So, okay, it might be the closest living ancestor, but if you inject a chimp with human DNA, you're not going to get a human baby. So that just bugged me. And so I went further down and I took a look at the actual research, and they haven't even really injected grey wolves with direwolf DNA. They've genetically modified grey wolves to just be bigger, is what they've done.
Yeah, they did make them. They made them bigger, and I'm glad you said that. You told me yesterday that they weren't going to try to release them in the wild, because originally that's what they said they were going to try to do, is release them back into the ecosystem, and I don't see how that's going to be very helpful.
But I mean, this is my main. Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's not be Debbie Downers, and let's just get behind this project 100% and say, okay, eventually one day they're going to be able to breed dire wolves. My question is why? What, you can't release them into the wild because, as I just said, there's not enough. They're megafauna. Dire wolves are massive. There's not going to be enough food for them to eat. I mean, maybe at first, with the deer and elk and moose overpopulation, because we've wiped out all their natural predators, well, at least depopulated them significantly, there'll be enough food to begin with. But what happens when they run out of big food? So they can't live in the wild.
Correct.
It's like pandas again. You know, we're throwing all this money at this so-called conservation project, but what is it actually ultimately going to do?
I agree with Purse. She said pets for the rich.
I see that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, Purse, I won't leave the pandas out of this. This is exactly the same thing. We are wasting money and resources on, in this case, creating a species that has no purpose in our reality.
In our current ecosystem. There's nothing.
Gap. There's no gap for direwolves in North America.
Know they did say that they were going to try to modify it and only use the genes and whatever that they could use to make it so it could fit in the ecosystem. But I don't foresee them being able to do that. You know, it could go horribly wrong. Especially as US, we've done plenty of things with bugs and all that stuff, genetically modifying them, and they hardly ever do what we want them to do. I'll point to the love bug in Florida that was supposed to eat mosquitoes, and all they do is have sex and make babies and get on your windshield during the spring or whenever it is they're mating.
You mean June bugs?
They're called love bugs.
The big...
If you're in Florida, no, they're not big. They're small and they're stuck together. You find them walking around stuck to one another.
Oh. Yeah, we have those in England too.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. No, I was thinking of June bugs. But yeah, anyway, we've gotten ourselves sidetracked there.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to direwolves. Yeah, I mean, like Gabby's making some good points in chat that we should be, you know, using that money to help humans, and I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Cancer, you know, taking care of Alzheimer's stuff, feeding poor people.
Just doing anything other than, you know, what we're bloody doing.
Yep. Well, it
I
kind of
feel
tells you where our priorities are, just as a world in general, where this is considered important, more important than, say, spending that money on people that really need it.
on social reform.
I agree. Yeah, on social reform. But they're not going to do that because that's not near as fun.
Yeah, that's just mental. So yeah, and it's the same thing with pandas. They've had their chance. They've had their time. They don't want to exist anymore. Just stop wasting money on them and protect other species. China has plenty of other species that are just as cool, that want to live, that you could spend money on. Like fucking
Yeah.
moon bears are awesome. Asian bears, they're great. We just don't have to.
Pandas.
Red pandas. Red pandas are awesome, and they
I was
want
about
to
to say
live.
they are not awful. They're adorable. They do.
Or
They're little shits. I love them.
they
I
want
could
to
watch
live. They have a
red pandas
zest.
all day. Yeah.
They have a zest for life, and they want to mate. But the big black and white ones, man, they don't care. They've given it up. They've given up. Let them die. And
Yeah.
but
Could you
like there was,
imagine being that zookeeper that's like, maybe if we show these pandas panda porn,
yeah, I'd
they'll
love to
want to
know who
get it
came up with that.
on. Like, I mean, at some point, I guess you just like hit the end of the barrel and you're like, what can I do to make this bear preserve itself?
Panda
Like,
porn.
yeah, just give the female panda a little teddy, put some lipstick on her, make her presentable for the
Tell her
male
to show
panda. Maybe
some,
that's all it
some
needs. That's
fur.
right.
You know,
Maybe she's
maybe
not trying hard enough.
Yeah, maybe she should play with her hair more, make herself more available.
Right.
Anyway, so there was room for a larger predator in North America, right? There was, and then the coy wolf started populating. It's become a real problem in recent years. Coy wolves have, started growing in population and becoming a threat to people as well. But that is just an example of, if there is a gap, nature will fill it up itself.
That's true. Eventually it will.
Hmm. So yeah, you get yourself. Okay, I feel like the chat is focusing too much on panda porn right now.
Gabby makes a point. If they don't have a problem procreating outside of captivity, maybe they do need to have, like, candlelit dinner, a little bit of privacy.
They're agreeing with me. Chat's agreeing with me that we should exterminate the pandas.
Not exterminate the pandas, but maybe
Okay, I'm
not
glad.
spend quite so much money. Let them
I'm glad.
exterminate themselves, maybe. But I would be really sad. I do think, at the very least, we should have some fierce creatures level of panda. If you've seen it, you've seen it. But in the zoo, they have an animatronic panda. Most of their animals are animatronic, but their animatronic panda, I mean, that's all you would need, really. No one would know the difference.
Okay. So I'll just leave you guys in a chat to discuss this whole. Okay, now we're just talking about monkey sex now. Anyway, so yeah, coy wolves have started populating the northern part of the United States, and they are filling the gap of a mid-sized predator between wolves and coyotes, because there was room in the ecosystem for that. There is no room for a dire wolf anywhere, You haven't created dire wolves. You've created genetically engineered grey wolves. What are you going to do with them? You're going to put them in zoos? You're going to... What is the plan? That's what I want to know, because I've seen all these articles about, oh, we've de-extincted the dire wolf. No, you haven't. Don't talk crap. But no one said, okay, what now? I feel like, I know it's just a movie, but there are some lines in Jurassic Park that do apply to this kind of science. Ian Malcolm famously says, scientists often think if they can or if they could and never stop to think if they should.
Correct.
And I feel like that's so now what? So we've got these genetically engineered grey wolves. What is next? I can't help but feel the really cynical part of me can't help but feel we know the world is run by billionaires, that some billionaire hired this biotech company and said, after watching Game of Thrones, and said, I want some dire wolves.
Make them for me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's what happened.
It was George R.R. Martin. He was like, make me some dire wolves.
It's yeah, but like, what now? We've got the bigger wolves. What's next? That's the question.
I think that we should create a real life Clifford the Big Red Dog. We can do it, like mix something with some horse or an elephant. It'll be fine.
But that's what they're talking about doing next, the woolly mammoth.
The woolly mammoth, and they started with hamsters who they gave like woolly mammoth hair, and then they're thinking that they're going to be able to splice that into some hot mammoth action. I don't know. What's the point? And then what? To what end? Like you said, what's next?
Yeah. What is the point
in Jurassic Park?
An animal,
and I'm dumb enough I'd go,
that has no place in our ecosystem anymore. Woolly mammoths, okay, maybe you could get a few herds to live in Siberia and they might be okay. But it still doesn't address the initial problem, is what wiped them out in the first place was diseases on our dogs. Woolly mammoths are a species we wiped out. Okay, there's no question about it. We didn't do it on purpose, but we did wipe them out.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Carol Baskin, bloody Joe Exotic is a guest on Log Our Live tonight.
Oh, wow.
Is
he in jail or is he out?
No, they're going to be talking to him in prison.
That's beautiful. Good for Joe. People just begging Trump to pardon that man. Like, let's dismiss some of the stuff, but like the meth and stuff alone, right? That's got to be bad. Like that's worth some years.
I didn't understand it at the time. I don't understand it now. I know we were bored as hell during the pandemic, but I never got the Joe Exotic thing. I don't.
It was such a train wreck in a time of our lives when we were bored and stuck inside, and watching that train wreck made us feel a little bit better about having to like wipe down all of our groceries and, do all the stupid things. I don't know. Joe Exotic was just a way to pass time. I don't know if it would have been as big, but I think it would have. I think that we as Americans love redonkulous trash garbage TV, and it was entertaining. To this day it's still entertaining. But it was just right time, right place.
He was totally right about that Carol Baskin woman, though. I mean,
killed her husband.
I mean, she did, right? Allegedly in Minecraft.
Allegedly in Minecraft, she did. supposedly, allegedly killed her husband. The FBI reopened up his case or something after a bunch of stuff.
Because
Okay,
like,
wait. Gabby's wondering if we can tell this story. Do you not know about Carol Baskin? Her husband went missing, and you know, she ended up getting all of this money. And there was something said during one of the interviews, like the talking heads in the documentary, about how, one of the tigers had attacked someone, and he was blaming somebody, and she's like, it's not like you put tuna juice on their leg or something like that, like she had known. But yeah, like the whole story is supposedly she killed her husband, fed him to the tigers, and then ground up the rest of his meat and bones and whatever, and fed that to the tigers as well.
right. And for context, I don't blame her. I'm just going to be honest. I don't blame her at all. Her husband was a piece of shit who would marry a woman when she was young, and when she'd grow up, he'd ditch her, leave her with nothing, and move on to the next woman.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't blame her at all for, and because she took care of her family, but she took care of his kids from another marriage as well. So,
Um,
uh,
Joe
what?
Exotic, basically, she was asking how Joe Exotic fit into the story of Carol. He's not the dead husband. So Carol Baskin had her own like wildcat, like retreat, whatever, and you know swore up and down that her way was the gold standard and that Joe's way was trash and whatever. And I mean, let's be honest, Joe was not good for those cats, and those cats weren't good for him. But anyway, they were in direct competition, and so there was a lot of the two of them just constantly going back and forth at each other. And he's the one that originally was like, no, she killed her husband, she yada yada. So that's where it came from. Was Joe would regularly get on YouTube and just talk shit about the people that he was in direct competition with, and she was one of them, someone that owned a bunch of cats, and they both just like to trash each other about how crappy the other group lived and took care of their felines.
On a very, very basic level, he was a low-functioning narcissist. She's a high-functioning sociopath. She's always going to win that fight. Sorry, he's a loser. She's a winner.
That, I mean, yeah.
That's just as simple as it gets. Joe is a very low-functioning manipulator that used money and drugs to control the people in his life. And because he's a loser, he eventually ran out of money and drugs. So he went to jail, everyone abandoning him, and Carol bought his zoo.
He's in jail for arson, right?
No, attempted murder.
Oh
He
yeah.
legitimately tried to kill her.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
I mean, yeah, and again, I 100% believe allegedly Minecraft she killed her husband. I don't blame her, and I'm on her side because I hate Joe Exotic a lot.
Yeah.
I find him to be repellent.
He's not a good guy.
He's evil. Like she isn't any better. Don't get me wrong, but he is fucking scum. I don't
Yeah.
like him at all. I
All the
didn't
meth
get
and
it.
the
Yeah,
flying meth heads with set,
you
like basically meth for sex and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
and getting that young lad who ended up shooting himself allegedly in Minecraft. You
Yeah.
know, because he was just fucking desperate. It's just sad. And then dragging his poor mum to his next wedding. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible, man. What's that? To Natalie Holloway, the woman that fell off the boat.
She disappeared off of Caribbean Island.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that just fucking. I was thinking of a different one, I guess. The one with Christopher Walken.
No. I'm not up to I don't know much about this case. I vaguely know of it. I'm gonna have to look into it.
It's one of those things I'd probably know if I looked into it, but I don't know it just by names. Oy. So yeah, direwolves. Stupid. What's the point?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I don't see the point. I just see it as just us spending money where we don't need to on crap we don't need to spend it on.
And not even delivering a product in the end.
Correct, yeah.
So. Dean's in the chat. Because I tagged him. Yeah. You were just as annoyed about this dire wolf thing as I was. So I was going to be talking about it.
Hey, Dean.
Yep.
Yep.
Anywho, so EastEnders has been just the worst the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely grueling.
And I'm like, yeah, I've been reduced to tears. You know, twice. Tonight I was reduced to tears, and last week I was reduced to tears as well. And I'm just over it now, guys. I've had enough. I've had enough of the tear jerking. I want it to stop.
I don't know. I'm ready to beat the shit out of like every child in that show.
All of them.
Every child, every single one of them. I'm just like, why are they so freaking awful? Why are all of them so awful? Like, last week, I think it was, Stacy like slapped Lily, and I was like, good. She fucking had it coming. Like, I'm not all about like beating the crap out of a kid, but these kids are like excessively awful.
Excessively awful. Like, they're really bad.
They are. I'm just like, how can you be so disrespectful to your parents? Parents are, most of them, crappy. They're gonna do things that are not awesome. And looking back now that I am the same age my parents were during some of my years, I'm like, wow, like the fact that I'm still alive is kind of amazing.
Yeah,
Because
someone should have.
They had no idea what the hell they were doing, and I get the kids don't understand that, but like, dude, these kids are so crappy to their parents, and their parents just like suck it up.
So, for those of you who don't remember what's been happening, as you all know, I have been praying for Martin and Stacey to get back together for the longest time. And they did. At the end of February, they finally got back together, and then they killed Martin off in what can only be described as, well, Nikki said during, well, you got what you wanted.
I know. I was fussed at for that by my therapist, who told me that is toxic positivity.
and and I was emotionally devastated. I'm not going to lie. Martin is a character that I have grown up with. He was pretty my age. He was around my age the whole time when I first started watching. He was my age. Watched him grow up on the show, and you know, I was very sad when he died. So that happened, and then the last 2 weeks has just been his funeral and his wake, and it's just been horrible. I'm not even going to lie. It's just been absolutely horrible.
Everybody's so shitty. Like
Yeah.
Bianca and Sonia, like that whole storyline. So Sonia was I'll try to put it as succinctly as possible. She was married to this guy named Reese, pregnant. He killed his ex-wife, who was in a coma, and then allowed his current wife to take the fall, his pregnant, woman, to take the fall. So she spends a good amount of her pregnancy in jail, and her sister Bianca finds out. So Reese attacks her and essentially locks her in a storage shed for months, and basically was going to leave her there to starve. So yeah, it's
horrible.
it's pretty horrible. But so finally Bianca comes out, a whole bunch of stuff happens, but Reese is gone or dead. No, Reese is dead. And a podcast gets a hold of Bianca and says, hey, we want to hear your story. And Bianca's never been able to sit down and talk to Sonia about what Sonia's husband did to her, because Sonia doesn't want to hear it. She just wants to move past it. So whatever happened to Bianca, she has no clue what Bianca lived through for the however many months that Bianca was stuck in a storage shed. And so Bianca went on this podcast, and now Sonia wants nothing to do with her. And I think that's shitty. and that's one of those where I was like, beat the shit out of your sister. Just your sister's not pregnant anymore. She's had the baby. She can take a few fists to the face. She deserves it. In no way did she feel like her sister had any right to talk about what she'd experienced. So that's a side storyline that's just as infuriating as the Martin storyline, because the Martin storyline is infuriating with all the players involved just being shitty to each other.
Yeah, and Ruby's gone now. She probably won't be coming back. We got Stacy and Lily. They're fighting, and I'm just I'm looking forward to moving past the wake, past the funeral, and getting more into classic EastEnders storylines. And we need a new villain. Okay, I just need that on the record. With Reese and Nish both dead, we need a villain. And he or she has got some pretty big shoes to fill, because Nish and Reese were amazing villains. I genuinely hated them. When I stop talking, that's generally means you talk, babe.
Yeah, sorry. I was explaining that Kevin did not die. I'm excited to get back to some regular storylines and to see some hubbub that's not this stuff, because it's been very depressing and heavy for weeks.
And tragic.
Gabby, yeah, Kevin's not dead. He's just busy, I guess, living the life. We would have had a big old announcement or something. There would have been much crying. Yeah, he's still alive. He posted 2 hours ago.
Yeah, I haven't heard him as been waiting. He isn't responding to my messages, so
I think sometimes he just doesn't pay attention to it, because he'll respond to me weeks later and be like, "Oh, hey," and And his woman's the same way, you know.
All right, so this just popped up on newsfeed. Trump team cites wolf de-extinction as it seeks to cut endangered species list. So basically, the Trump administration is using the de-extinction of the dire wolf to slash endangered species protections. Dear God, this is the world we live in.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
When's
He's like,
Doge going to start looking at fucking Elon Musk out of interest? Because, like,
why would they?
SpaceX's shuttles exploded and stuff, so
They
feels
exploded,
like
and also he's been trying to buy elections. So who knows, man? Who knows? Probably never. Never ever. I think he gets
anyway.
like $8 million or something a month or something like that from us for all of our government contracts we have with him, with SpaceX, with Tesla. I think that they're talking about, supposedly, this is something that I read somewhere. I'm not saying it's true. They're talking about getting a bunch of cyber trucks or whatever, armored cyber trucks or armored electrical vehicles from Tesla for the army. I could be wrong.
Okay, but like, ain't our military suffering enough?
I mean, we're
Your
still getting
military.
people to join. I think that
Okay,
um
we're not a political show.
oh
It's
no, absolutely. I was just gonna say it's afterwards that we fall short a lot of times. Just as someone who works with veterans on the regular, it's just sad what we do to them afterwards. We're like, thanks for letting us use your body. Goodbye.
thanks,
Essentially.
thanks for signing on the dotted line. Thanks for giving life and limb for your country. It's $2.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. And what's sad is, most of them are homeless. Most of our veterans, like our homeless people, are veterans. And there's more churches than homeless people in America. And if one church took in a homeless person, there'd be no homeless people. They don't have to do that, though, but they're still somehow tax exempt.
Them's the rules.
Them's is the rules. But yeah, I don't. This whole de-extinction thing, like you said, it's not de-extinction. It's not. And nothing that we can create is going to be able to do well by our ecosystem. Like, it creates what it needs to. That's why species evolve. It takes
Yeah.
time, sure, and some go, extinct, but like, are we really seeing a horrible outcome for the human species because there's no dodo? Sometimes species go extinct, right? Like, that's just the way of the world, as sad as it is. And if we keep on genetically processing things, like, who knows? It's not always going to function the way we think it's going to function. It's like modern day alchemy.
It's just the miracle of evolution.
Yeah.
Chaos. And, whatever sticks, whatever works. If there's a niche, it will be filled automatically. We don't need to get
Correct.
involved.
Yeah.
And as that leads me back to the initial question of what to do with them now that we have them.
Right. And it looks like they're probably going to stay in captivity their whole life, and it's just going to be something that we did, like cloning, sheep and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And just, be slightly bigger grey wolves living
Right.
in a biotech firm.
Basically, and then that's going to happen with the woolly mammoth too. It's not like they can just release that back into the wild, or can they? And you know what
They
are going to
probably
be
could in Siberia. There's enough
possibly.
food and space for them in Siberia. I think they could get away with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
want to release them first. They just can't. There's no place for them.
they don't fit into our current ecosystem. They could completely mess everything up. Not that our ecosystems are stable right now with what humans are doing to them in this way, like in our usual way, but now it's going to be messed up because we're introducing things that are not natural to the environment into the environment.
I
Look at
mean,
what happened when they took all the wolves out of Yellowstone and then they reintroduced them. Like, it changed the entire ecosystem. What are you going to do with two dire wolves?
I think it's 3, isn't it? Not dire wolves, big
It
grey
might
wolves.
be big gray wolves, dire hybrid gray wolves.
Well, if you
They're
think about
hybrid
it,
gray
it is
wolves.
mankind's first synthetic species.
Is it?
I believe so. It depends if they breed them or not, I guess. I mean, we've made one-offs. They made woolly mice with
Ah,
the woolly
the
mammoth
very
DNA.
first synthetic species is known as a bacteria, Mycoplasma. It was created by scientists.
See, that scares the fuck out of me. Making like bacteria and stuff, that's terrifying.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, that's how do you think? I mean, we have issues with them messing with bacteria all the time. They mutate it, they put it in little labs, and they see what they can do with it. And then, what happens when that gets out? Like, I read this, like, I remember I read this big long paper on like possible zombie apocalypse and what they might look like and what was actually, something that could happen. And like nanotechnology was one, but it was super far off. But one of the ones that they talked about was mutated rabies. If rabies mutated and became airborne, or, uh, transmitted through touch or sputum or whatever, it would cause a huge problem because you can't test for rabies. You know, it could cause an issue. There would be like one group of people who were naturally immune to it. So there you go. But I'm sure that we've messed with the rabies, virus or whatever the heck it is, lots. Just like we've messed with prions, we've messed with all sorts of stuff. So, and that's, I guess, creating a bacteria is how we could learn how to mutate things and whatever. I mean, my brother-in-law, had bladder cancer. Uh, they literally injected tuberculosis into his bladder. Someone had to be the first one that said, "Give me TB in my bladder to kill this cancer." Like, someone had to agree to it. That's crazy.
It's some cancers can be destroyed by viruses, can't they? But like, it
Absolutely. Hmm.
depends on the virus
Right. and
and the
and that's
cancer.
why nanotechnology is such a big deal, because if they can perfect it, they can just go, okay, find this cancer, and then that nanotechnology only attacks that cancer and nothing else. And it's becoming more reachable. I mean, we have that pill that we can swallow now instead of doing like an endoscopy or a colonoscopy. You swallow a pill. It's a camera. It records its way all the way through. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to go under nothing. You swallow a pill. And nanotechnology will be like that for medicine.
What a world we'll live in.
I mean, the thing is we have so much technology right now that could really help like the human race, but we're not going to use it that way. We're going to use it as a bottom line, a way to make more billions, more millions, more money, get more power, you know, govern more things. It's not like we're going to go AI can make it so people don't have to work 40 hours a week to make ends meet, or 80 hours. They can work 20 and they can, you know, take time off to do other stuff. It's a capitalistic place, world. So everybody's going to be about money. It's not going to be about the betterment of everybody, which is what medical science is good for. It's kind of like that Black Mirror episode, you know, where that's 100% what would happen is we can fix this, but now you got to pay a subscription, and now you got to do this, and now you got to do this. Like they do that to us all the time. But nanotechnology, AI, stuff like that could be amazing for humans. We just won't use it that way.
No, of course not. We'll use it to make money and create. Yeah. And yeah, just war and money. That's what it'll be used for.
100%. But think about all the amazing things that we could do with AI, even medically for people. AI can figure out things way quicker than we can, mathematically, stuff like that. Like it's smarter than us already. So, but we're not going to use it. We're going to use it for a bottom line.
Yep. Because that's how we roll.
Same with the dire wolves, man. I agree with Purse. She said that it's just a way for them to prove they can do it so they can get more money to do other stuff.
I mean, yeah. Yep. Sad. Depressing. But that'll wrap us up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many. Unless you had anything else to say.
No, I'm done.
Yeah. Dire wolves suck. See you all next week.